Hello everyone, thanks for joining us for another edition of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by Speedstream. I'm Jim Cardle. Sid Miller is a former member of the Texas House of Representatives from District 59, and as such was a former chairman of the House Ag and Livestock Committee. He's also a former chairman of the House Border and Public Safety Committee, and is now one of 5 candidates running for the Texas Agricultural Commissioner position. We're glad to be able to visit today with former state rep and candidate Sid Miller. Sid, thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming in. It's been a little bit because of your busy activities and running around the state, but we appreciate you taking the time to come in. Last time you were here, we were talking about the sonogram bill, which we'll get to in a minute. But jumping right in, if I can, Chairman Miller, you're one, as I mentioned, one of 5 candidates. Republican primary is going to probably determine who ends up being the next Ag Commissioner. Sure. So if I can, tell us a little bit just of your background. Why are you qualified to be Agricultural Commissioner?
Well, I'm the 8th generation farmer and rancher in my family. We landed in the 1700s in Virginia, fought in the Revolutionary War, the War of Northern Aggression, and after the Civil War moved to Texas. So 4-generation Texans involved in agriculture. I've always made my living off the land. I grow crops, raise cattle, horses, and grow trees. Graduate of Tarleton State University.
Okay.
That's the purple tie this morning.
Okay.
And with a degree in vocational agriculture. I was an ag teacher for 5 years, FFA advisor, 4-H leader. So, rural Texas is very important to our youth in cultivating that. I've been a member of the several agricultural groups like the cattle raisers, the cattle feeders. I'm a lifetime member of Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. I was on the board of directors of the Farm Bureau and president of the Dublin Peanut Cooperative in my hometown. So vast working all my life in agriculture.
Okay, certainly got your bona fides there. A lot of folks don't realize that for this specific position, it's a constitutional requirement that you be actively involved. But getting into the politics, if I can tempt you to jump into the politics of it, because of your opponents, it's been in the paper recently and in the news that one of them is a former Democrat voter, a former or a current donor to Battleground Texas, or involved in some past Democrat Party activities. What do you see differentiating you, other than your qualifications, from your opponents, if you can?
Well, in this race, there's 3 things
that
a candidate needs to be successful. One, you have to have the agricultural background. I have more of that than anybody in the race. Since the race is going to be decided in the Republican primary, you have to have the conservative credentials. I certainly have more of those than anybody. And then you need to have the ability to run the department. And serving as agricultural chairman of Agriculture and Livestock, I had direct oversight of the Texas Agriculture Department, Texas Agriculture Commissioner, developing their budget. It's a $500 million budget with almost a $2 billion pass-through from the USDA. So over almost $2.5 billion go through that agency. So it's one of our larger agencies.
Okay. And then in particular, something tapping into your border security chairmanship, and it's been an issue in your race, border security, because of the agricultural implications down in South Texas. Talk about that issue, if you can, for a little bit.
Well, border security is important to Texas. As chairman of the Border Security, Homeland Security and Public Safety, we had jurisdiction over securing the Texas border, Texas Rangers, DPS, emergency evacuations for the state. We put helicopters, DPS helicopters, on the border. For the first time ever, we partnered and brought all the groups together: ICE, Border Patrol, Texas Parks and Wildlife, Border Sheriff's Coalition, municipalities, the Texas Rangers, the DPS, all in joint operation centers. Before this, no one was talking to each other. Now we're starting to see some success. While I was in the House and chairman of that committee, we reconstituted the Texas Navy. Many people may not know that, but we've got boats,
down on the
armor-plated boats
on the rivers, and
on the river, on the Rio Grande, and on the coast. They have 6 machine gun turrets. So we're taking this seriously, and Illegal drugs coming into Texas have been reduced 60%. Illegal immigration coming into Texas is down 40%. We in period since 2008, we've captured over 1 million illegal aliens coming into Texas. So we made a difference there, and it's huge to the farmers and ranchers on that border. Since 2006, there's been 50,000 murders on the Texas-Mexican border that we know about. No telling how many we haven't found. Many farmers and ranchers were afraid to even go on their property, but we're dealing with that now and making some headway.
In particular on that point, again, folks, thanks for joining us. We're visiting with former House member Sid Miller from House District 59, now a candidate for the Texas Agriculture Commissioner. And Mr. Chairman, if I can, your website is millerfortexas.com.
Yes.
You're getting into some particulars there. Tell us, if folks go to millerfortexas.com, what are some of the key planks? You've talked about some of your accomplishments. What are some of your plans? Are we going to see more of the status quo under Sid Miller?
You know, I'll be the first Ag Commissioner to address the topic of water. One of the first things I'm going to do as a Texas Agriculture Commissioner is hire a Deputy Commissioner of Agriculture in charge of water.
And a lot of folks will remember that we just passed a constitutional amendment, big issue.
That was $2 billion. The one prior to that was $6 billion. So we have $8 billion of the taxpayers' money set aside to address water needs in Texas. For years, water wasn't a problem in Texas. Texas was watered by windmills. But we're approaching a population of nearly 26 million, around 26 million. Our water resources are starting to be stressed. So we need to make sure that we have an adequate balance between industry, municipalities, and rural agriculture, and that all those needs are addressed equally and properly. So we have a 50-year water plan. We have the state divided up in 16 regions. All those regions are sending in their request to upgrade and for lakes and infrastructure. Some of the things we can immediately do is conservation. We can put in a better irrigation system that reduce runoff, wind erosion, evaporation. Cities, some of our cities are losing 30% of the water by the time they receive it till they deliver it to their customers. We can get on top of that very economically. So those are some things we can do immediately.
So water is going to be
my number one issue will be water.
And something you'll have purview over. And finally, if I can be respectful of your time for coming in again, I know you got a busy day today, but people will recall Todd Staples running for lieutenant governor. Prior to him, comptroller Susan Combs. Prior to her, of course, our current governor, Rick Perry. Is this office going to be a stepping stone for Sid Miller? Tell us, if you would, your thoughts about your political career and how you're going to be devoted, that this is going to be your life work here.
You know, historically it has been a stepping stone, but there have been those exceptions of commissioners that got in office, and that's the only office they held statewide. Reagan Brown, Commissioner White were there for several terms. You know, I want to be Ag Commissioner. I don't care anything about running for governor, lieutenant governor. We've got great conservatives behind us. You'll also find that on our website. We've been endorsed by all the major conservative groups and leaders across the state, like Texas Right to Life, Young Conservatives of Texas, Texans for Fiscal Responsibility, Conservative Republicans of Texas.
And you don't want to forget Ted Nugent to throw in there.
Ted Nugent's our Second Amendment blood brother. He's not only endorsed us, but he's my campaign treasurer and state co-chair with 8-time world champion Cowboy Joe Beaver. You know, we have agriculture groups that have endorsed us also, the Texas Quarter Horse Association, the Crop Dusters, Texas Exotic Wildlife Association, Texas Agriculture and Aviation Association, and then just conservative leaders across the state, like Kathy Adams with Eagle Forum, Kelly Shackelford with the Liberty Institute. We've had David Barton with Wall Builders, Jonathan Symes, Texas Values, Steve Holtze with Conservative Republicans, Michelle Smith, Concerned Women, Rick
Sounds
Green,
like you've got a
just goes
couple of
on
them
and on
tied
and
down.
on. So we've got a real good team behind us. We think that this will be decided for the most part in the Republican primary, and we've got all those numerous grassroots leaders across the state and over 24 state elected officials, House representatives backing our campaign. So we feel really good about it. You know, I feel really good because the Dallas Morning News is taking shots at us already. So, you know, if they can't beat you on the issues and they can't beat you on the endorsements, they try to, you know, drag you through the mud. So, unfortunately, that has happened. Of course, we've been exonerated by the Ethics Commission on all those counts so far. But we'll continue to take the high road. We're going to talk about agriculture in Texas and what's important to the farmer and rancher, and about our greatest natural resource in this state, and that's our youth. We've got to get the young farmer back involved. The average age of the Texas farmer is about 62.
Okay.
And only 2% of the population is actively engaged in farming and ranching, yet 1 out of 7 jobs in this state is indirectly related to agriculture. So it's important, second largest industry in our state. So that's where we are on endorsements and who's backing us, and why it's important to have someone that understands agriculture in this position.
Well, speaking of the position, we're going to let you get back out on the campaign trail. Good work on tying all that down. You've clearly been working hard, and we hope you'll come back to see us again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'd be remiss if I forgot to mention that Chairman Miller is also a former world calf rope champion. Congratulations.
Well, I'm going to correct you on that. I'm not a former. 2 months ago, I won my 9th world title, so I'm the current AQHA world champion.
Congratulations. Sid Miller, chairman of the House Ag Committee formerly, and the Homeland Security and Public Safety Committee. We appreciate him coming in. Folks, be sure to join us again and come back for future editions of Texas Insider TV, brought to you by Speedstream. I'm Jim Cardle. Thanks for joining us.